Hello, welcome back to Moveeno. Today, I'm going to recap the 2019 movie titled Nailed. Sit back and enjoy. In the opening scene, we see Jae-gu causing his usual scene at the construction site. He argues that the heavy construction trucks that ply the road close to his shop have been blocking other vehicles from patronizing his business, and for that reason, he demands a compensation from the construction manager. In the process, he accidentally bumps into a little child, and the manager orders security to get rid of him, and he eventually ends up in the police station. Jae-gu and Soon-young run a little roadside garage in the outskirts of a rural town in Korea. Despite their fully equipped garage, most drivers hardly notice them, and therefore, they have little to no clients. Because of this, they barely make enough money to survive. This has brought even more tension to the relationship between Soon-young and her family. Because of Jae-gu's low status, the family never approved of him. They even hate him more for the fact that Soon-young now has to make dolls for a few cents to support the household. Even more worse, a construction company is working nearby have taken over the roads with their heavy trucks and therefore blocking the garage from potential clients. Jae-gu gets frustrated one morning and goes to the construction site asking the manager and his wife for a compensation. But he accidentally bumps into their child, so they see him as a crazy person and security takes him away. He ends up in the police station. The police are not surprised to see him because he always ends up there for causing his usual scenes. There, an officer tells him this is what he gets for refusing to join the local shop association because their members receive periodic compensation. Another cop reveals to him of some rumors regarding his father-in-law. He appears to be the owner of the shop Jae-gu is renting for his garage, and the old man has plans of selling it. On his way home, Jae-gu runs into a man with a broken truck. The man informs him of his intentions of scrapping the truck, but Jae-gu reveals that there is no point of selling it because he can just change the valve and it will run for a few more years. When Jae-gu got home, he asks Soon-young if the rumors are true, and she confesses her dad has been frustrated because they haven't been paying taxes. Jae-gu gets angry because she's been keeping this from him, and before the argument can escalate, he leaves the house to clear his head. He decides to get some beer and cigarettes at the local grocery store, but poor Jae-gu can't afford both. So he ends up buying only cigarettes and of course the cheapest brand. However, the old lady of the store suddenly remembers Jae-gu when he once took her granddaughter to school, and to show her gratitude, she gives him a beer. But while enjoying his beer and cigarettes outside the store, Mr. Moon approaches him. Mr. Moon is the head of the local shop association. Mr. Moon and his men beat up Jae-gu for advising the man who wanted to scrap his truck. It turns out that Mr. Moon has made a deal with the man to acquire the truck for cheap, and Jae-gu got in his way. Later that night, when Mr. Moon was having dinner with his friends, he tells them what happened. His friends start gossiping about Soon-young's horrible marriage, and Mr. Moon decides to leave them because he still has feelings for her. A few days later, Soon-young joins her family at a gathering and is immediately attacked by her relatives for her terrible life choices. Jae-gu then shows up after borrowing some nice clothes and saving some money for a cake just to impress his in-laws. But when he arrives, he overhears everyone insulting him, so he decides to leave quietly. Unfortunately, on his way home, he accidentally drops the cake. Because of his frustrations about the whole situation, he refuses to pick it up and instead kicks it with anger. At that very moment, he notices a car in the middle of the road with a flat tire. So he offers to change it while explaining that the construction trucks that pass by drop all kinds of scraps. Since it's late at night and they're in the middle of nowhere, Jae-gu takes advantage and charges extra for the job because the client has no choice. After he is done with the client, he goes back to the road to check on anything else that may have fallen from the trucks. Soon-young arrives just in time in a relative's car. The driver doesn't even say hi to Jae-gu. And when he complains about it, an argument ensues between him and Soon-young, who is tired of the confrontations from her family about her husband. To calm her nerves, Jae-gu shows her the money he made. When they go to bed, Jae-gu is still bothered about what happened that night and can't sleep. He decides that it's time to take action and returns to the road to scatter a bunch of scraps all over the place. The plan works out good, and the next morning they have a new client with a flat tire. For some reason, Jae-gu charges a more reasonable price. After several hours, Jae-gu worries because only one more client came by. He goes to check on the scraps and finds all of them gone. It turns out the construction trucks have been pushing the scraps away when they drive by, and because of the size and weight of their tires, they didn't get flat. Not ready to give up yet, Jae-gu stays up late making new more sharper scraps and scatters them on the road again. And this time, Soon-young discovers his activities and quickly disapproves of the idea. These scraps could cause an accident or get Jae-gu arrested. But he changes his mind when he argues that all the people use this road are rich tourists that are always getting out of trouble through bribes, meaning there's nothing wrong with scamming them. To spice up his argument, Jae-gu also mentions that he wants to save money to buy the shop from his father-in-law. As days pass by, Soon-young becomes convinced as she sees the money this idea brings in. Finally, they are able to buy better food. One beautiful morning, a rich lady becomes the latest victim of a flat tire. And while Jae-gu does his job, Soon-young offers her a drink and have a conversation to keep her happy. However, the lady is incredibly snobbish towards them because of their social status. And when she hears Soon-young only makes 5 cents for every 10 dolls, she expresses her pity and buys one for 10 bucks. Soon-young feels insulted for being treated like a charity case and goes all out and helps Jae-gu make an argument to charge so much money just for a tire replacement. Interestingly, from then on, she's more supportive of her husband's plan. She brings him drinks while he makes scraps, and even admitting she would love to have money to dress more nicely. Late at night, Soon-young begins going with Jae-gu to the road. She holds the flashlight while he drops the scraps and even offers some ideas to make the plan better. She proposes to Jae-gu to stick nails to the ground instead of having to come back every night to replace the scraps. One evening, they're caught by a police officer that wonders what they're doing on the road at such late hour. But the couple argue out that he's using the police car for personal matters because he isn't wearing his uniform and there's a girl in the front seat. The officer has no choice but to leave them alone. The next day, they decide to lay low for a few days after their encounter with the police. But since Soon-young receives her payment for the dolls, they decide to treat themselves. Jae-gu goes to the grocery store for beer and pays off his debt. He also takes chance to give the kid a ride on his scooter to celebrate. Soon-young does her hair in the salon for the first time in years. Mr. Moon begins getting suspicious after hearing that the couple is doing better financially. When night falls, Jae-gu and Soon-young return to the road with a drill to stick their first nail in the pavement. The new plan works perfectly well and Jae-gu tells Soon-young that she can buy as many dresses as she wants. However, he won't be spending much because he wants to save money so he can buy the shop. Meanwhile, the rich lady discovers that her child is kidnapped. When the police ask her about anyone that may have a grudge against her, she comes across the doll she bought from Soon-young and accusing the couple of scamming her. The police chief doesn't think he has enough evidence to arrest them. But one of the officers shares the fact he saw the couple behaving suspiciously on the road the other night. Hours later, the cops find Jae-gu and arrest him, but not Soon-young, since they've heard about him making a scene on the construction site and bumping against the manager's child, makes him the prime suspect. In the next scene, while Jae-gu is interrogated at the station, the police search the shop. Soon-young's dad is there as the owner, and instead of supporting his daughter, he keeps insulting Jae-gu and tells Soon-young that she's reaping what she's sown. Eventually, there's no evidence to be found anywhere and Jae-gu is released with no charges. As an apology, the police chief decides to drive him home. But at first he shows his concern towards Jae-gu's situation. He soon tells him to stand up for himself and to stop bringing his men trouble. The following morning, Jae-gu gets his tools ready to go back to the road since they've been losing money while he was away. Soon-young is worried about her husband and the likelihood of getting caught, but she can't convince him to take a break. Meanwhile, Mr. Moon is still convinced that Jae-gu is hiding something. Since the police can't do anything without proof, he and his brother, who is a cop, agree to take turns to keep an eye on the garage couple. As Soon-young goes to the road to stick a nail in it one night, Mr. Moon sees her and finds the nail after she's gone. Now that he has this information, he has to find a way to use it in his favor. With the nails again in place, business picks up once more and the garage couple can afford to eat out, so they treat themselves. One afternoon, an elderly couple gets a flat tire on their way to the hospital. Despite asking Jae-gu for a discount, he still charges them the full price. Later that day, Soon-young goes to the grocery store and is approached by Mr. Moon, who confesses he knows about the nails. He tells Soon-young to see him in private if she wants him to keep it a secret. At night, the couple finds it difficult to sleep. Jae-gu feels guilty about overcharging the elderly couple and keeps thinking about his own dead parents. Soon-young is also worried about what Mr. Moon may do. Pretending to be asking a rhetorical question, Soon-young wonders what they should do if someone ever finds out about their scam. Jae-gu replies he would quit before that person went to the police. The next morning, Soon-young thinks thoroughly about how much their lives have improved by this plan and takes the hardest decision in her life. She goes to see Mr. Moon and accepts to go down with him in the backseat of his car to buy his silence. After the incident, Mr. Moon tells his brother to drop the surveillance on the garage couple. After paying for Mr. Moon's blackmail, Soon-young feels incredibly dirty. So when she comes across some old friends that invite her to come shopping with them, she accepts in order to take her mind off things. When she returns home, it's extremely late, but she's looking like a whole new person with her new hairdo and a bunch of nice dresses. Jae-gu complains about why she didn't prepare dinner, but Soon-young ignores him and takes a shower using a dangerous solvent because there isn't enough money in the world to make her feel clean again. Soon-young waited until Jae-gu goes to sleep before allowing herself to cry her heart out. A few days later, a car crashes by the roadside near the garage. Because the police will be there soon, Jae-gu rushes to the road to take out the nails. He notices a man coming out of the car, but as soon as the man sees Jae-gu, he runs away under suspicion. so Jae-gu checks the car and discovers the kidnapped child. In just a few hours, reporters rush to the shop to interview Jae-gu, and even the governor comes by to congratulate him as a hero. Soon-young's father also shows up and pretends to have always loved his son-in-law, just to have a chance to befriend the governor. Jae-gu receives hefty cash reward for rescuing the child. He finally buys the shop even though Soon-young refuses at first because her dad is charging them extra on purpose. Although Jae-gu is aware of this, he buys it anyway. The couple also buys a nice car and proceed to spend even more. Because the whole town has now won their trust and sees them as heroes, they put nails on the road again. And the business continues to boom. They install an electric sign for the shop, buys fancy clothes, and to top it all off, they even visit expensive restaurants where they discuss the possibility of one day moving to the big city. This also means Jae-gu is getting most of the car repair business and leaving Mr. Moon with only fewer clients. Mr. Moon isn't happy about this, so he calls Soon-young to do more blackmailing. Unfortunately, Soon-young ignores his calls. One day, while Jae-gu is in town enjoying a beer at his usual spot, he suddenly hears some commotion and follows a cop to the hospital. He discovers that his nails have caused an accident and now a driver is hurt. As he decides to sit outside the hospital to deal with his guilt, Mr. Moon finds him and tells him to go away before he tells everyone that this is his fault. Jae-gu gets in his car to go home, but he suddenly cries when he remembers Soon-young's supposedly rhetorical question. This means she has always known about Mr. Moon. Meanwhile, Soon-young is in the middle of the road adding more nails. Jae-gu gets angry about the situation and drags her home, where he tries to find the money she's been saving to burn it off. Soon-young cries as she tries stopping him and finally confesses what she had to do to keep Mr. Moon quiet. Since the harm has already been caused, Soon-young would rather enjoy the money instead of letting her sacrifice be in vain. Jae-gu can't get over with the guilt and pain, so he rushes to the road to take off the nails but finds it impossible to move them. He even has a bunch of them to deal with. In the end, while Soon-young adorns herself with her new dresses and puts on a makeup, Jae-gu comes up with an idea to bend the nails once and for all. So he rents a heavy truck to drive it down the road, hoping the weight will do the job. Please like and share this video to help the channel out. Subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.